talk about what's happened in our parole system. There are about 2,000 people in Victoria that were on parole up until the recent changes. That number's been reduced. And so what's happening is that more people are completing the whole of their sentences, and then they're just returned to the community when they complete their sentences without any support structure. And so their risk of reoffending again escalates without monitoring and without support. And now the critics of the government's abolition or curtailment of the parole process have said this: unless you monitor people, particularly when they're vulnerable, when they're just discharged from prison, then they're at greatest risk of reoffending. And everyone talks about the horror of the Jill Meagher case, and that's inescapable. But that person who was released from prison should have been much more vigorously monitored. He should have been wearing some sort of electronic monitoring equipment which would have automatically been set off if they weren't compliant, if they weren't abiding by a curfew, and they should have been required to see their parole officer on a much more regular basis. You can't monitor parolees if on a cost analysis the parole officer has to monitor 60 or 100 people who are all high risk as opposed to 10 or 15 people. If we're going to have a parole system, and if we're going to try and make the community a safer one, then we've got to adequately fund a parole system. And so the way we've moved in the last 12 months particularly is to enable or to ensure that many of those people who were otherwise eligible for parole are denied parole. Then they're released back into the community without any supervision, any structured support in terms of housing or employment opportunity, and that, in my view, makes the community not a safer one, but one that's more vulnerable.